Welcome back to Behind the Lease. We spent a lot of time on this show talking about the what of retail, the clothes, the food, the fitness. But today we're talking about the how, specifically how the 20 plus million EVs on the road are fundamentally changing where we park, where we shop, and how developers calculate the value of a single square foot. Our guest today is at the absolute epicenter of the electrification of the American parking lot. Lane Chaplin is the head of real estate at EVgo, the nation's largest public fast charging network, powered by 100% renewable energy. Lane isn't just looking for dirt, he's looking for dwell time. He's the man negotiating with the biggest REITs and retail owners in the country to turn dead space into power centers. Lane, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Brett. It's a pleasure to be on.
When you look at a potential site, what's the golden ratio of surrounding retail? Does an EVgo station perform better next to a Whole Foods, a gym, or a movie theater?
Amenities, in a large part, drive EV charging, not entirely, but in a large part. And a big reason for that is because it's about the one more thing. And what I mean by that is, what can you do in addition to going to get your car charged? Inevitably, it's going to take 20 to 30 minutes in our chargers, and people can either choose to sit in their car, watch some Netflix, which I would not rather them do. I'd rather them go in the stores and shop, or they can't go in the stores and shop. So that's really one of the things that we try to incentivize people to do. And for the main players on that really work well with us are grocery anchored centers. I mean, bar none, grocery anchored, daily needs, 1.5 trips a week type site. So you got a grocery anchored with a few QSRs. Hopefully one of them is a coffee shop. Gyms can be good, but the problem with gyms is that usually with our charges, they're about 30 minutes, depending on a lot of factors. But most people don't work out for just 30 minutes. They go in there for 45 to an hour. So there is some utility to that and different ways that we can incentivize people to go into those. But really, at the end of the day, our bread and butter are grocery anchored with coffee shop, 3 or 4 QSRs.
How often do you find a perfect retail site on paper that you have to walk away from because the utility infrastructure costs more than the lease is worth? How do you bridge that gap?
We do preliminary due diligence when we find a site that we like to make sure that we're going to have the power available. And to get that power available to the site, it's not going to be an absurd amount of CapEx that we have to spend. So that's core to our business model.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, but every major car manufacturer has integrated the NACS, the Tesla plug. The federal NEVI funding has hit the ground. So I think there was a land grab for prime corners. How is EVgo differentiating its real estate footprint from Tesla's supercharger network or the newer, oil major entrants like BP Pulse?
So one of the things that we really try to focus on, or actually two of them, are customer experience and utilization. But what I mean by utilization is how much is that site being used on a 24-hour cycle? And we want to be the ones that not only are cyclical with the store visits. So if you have a grocer and they are primarily busy in the mornings or in the afternoons, we want to also drive traffic to that center on the non-cyclical times. So that's one of the main ways that we try to differentiate ourselves, is that we care about utilization.
We talked about, earlier, you are typically signing up for 15-year leases, and real estate's a 10 to 20-year play. So with battery tech changing and charging speeds getting faster every year, how do you lease a site today that won't be technologically obsolete by 2031 or 2041?
So I'm not able to disclose a lot about future plans now, but what I can say is that we stay very in tune with the market, not just the retail real estate market, but obviously the charging and the OEM markets. And you nailed it. Like a lot of the time at the end of the day, the car is not going to charge to the maximum amount that it could, primarily limited by the battery. If we have a 350 kilowatt speed charger and we get a car going up to it that says, hey, we're not getting those speeds. If you've ever put together a Wi-Fi system in your home and you're like, why does one device, I'm paying for 2 gigabytes of service. Why is this device getting 1.5 gigabytes for my 200? The limiting factor there is the phone. To your point, like as battery technology increases, charging technology is going to increase, and we're laser focused on making sure that we're meeting all those.
Do some landlords look at this as an amenity that they want to bring to the shopping center? Who has the leverage, the charger or the shopping center?
In a lot of ways, we are a retailer as far as ICSC defines us, which I believe is true because essentially we are leasing space at the end of the day, unless we're doing an acquisition on the real estate side, which I also oversee. We're primarily leasing space at the end of the day, just like any other retailer out there. So there are rents associated with that. But to answer your question a little more in depth on their perspective, I've been in this now for a little bit and I'm seeing a lot more appetite for this because primarily they're starting to understand that if they go with the right CPO, they're seeing the increase in foot traffic. They're seeing more come to their sites, which would normally not. I'll give you a quick example, just a personal one. So I've got chargers that are around where I live here in Dallas near you. And there are chargers that are on their own on an island, and there are some that are further away, 10 minutes away. But if I go to the ones that are further 10 minutes away, I can get that one more thing done, right? So I'm going to choose those chargers that are 10 minutes away over the ones that are closer and more convenient because at the end of the day, it's an extra 10 minutes and I kill two birds with one stone. So retail landlords and retailers for that matter are really starting to see the benefits of this. And I'm getting a lot more people coming to us than I've seen in the past.
So tell me about your perfect EVgo deal. What's the perfect site that would easily get approved, checks all the boxes?
Yeah, and there's two answers to that. So the way that most EV charging companies are set up, you have real estate and then you have licensing. And think of it like traditional real estate plays that are ground leases or acquisitions, out parcels, freestanding, what have you. And then you have license plays, which are, think of it like existing parking in the back of a Kroger parking lot, and we're adding chargers to those. But if you had to boil it down in a nutshell, the ideal site for us is high ADT, high traffic, interstate or road, good access off of that, in a dense metropolitan urban area with that grocery anchored center, and 3 to 4 QSRs, or one of those is a coffee.
What's the biggest myth that you're fighting? What do retail landlords still get wrong about, EV charging, EV drivers right now?
Well, there's actually a few I want to address. So there's one that the EV business as a whole, not EV charging, but EV vehicles, is losing its luster, which there is a little bit of truth to that. But if you dig into it, it's not as clear as that. So new car sales have definitely gone down. But the thing that a lot of people don't really realize is that used EV sales are going up substantially. And for a CPO such as us, we don't care at the end of the day, like whether it's used or new, they're going to charge the exact same way. So that's one misconception that's out there. You probably know this, but industries typically are two big inflection points, 5 and 20%, right? 5 stabilizes and 20% is whenever it starts to really capture and start to steamroll a little bit. Overall, the country is about 11% new EV sales. And there are certain states like California and Colorado where they've gone over 25% of just new. I'm just talking new, not even used. So it's here to stay, and that's one of the big misconceptions. The other one, too, I think that's good to clarify, especially in the retail real estate landscape, is that charging is charging, and that's not the case. You have level 2, you have level 3, you have level 4. It is way basic, but it helps. You're talking about speeds at the end of the day, and I think what happened, EVgo's been around for 15 years. So we've been in the early days, but there are a lot of level 2 that are in retail centers, and not just with us, but around the industry. And the problem with that is that you're basically talking about a wall charger at the end of the day for your house that's now on a commercial property. And those have pretty low speeds when it comes to charging a vehicle. Great for homes, great for hotels, great for office, horrible for retail real estate. And the big problem is, you get enough of those in your center and people just won't come because who wants to sit 8 to 10 hours? I mean, unless you're watching Gone with the Wind 2 times over, nobody wants to do that, right? So that's been a big misconception, is that charging is just charging. Now, it should be level 3 and level 4 if you're doing retail.
In the future, do you think people still have their home chargers, or if there's enough of these around, do you think a lot of people decide, hey, I don't need a home charger. I don't want to go through that expense?
I think home charging is here to stay. I think public charging is here to stay. It's all about the strategy on how you implement. And I've been with EVgo now for a little while. And one of the things that really incentivize me to come over is the thought that goes into the network planning. In my mind, they're in a lot of ways the measure of success for the company. If you're just throwing these things out everywhere, you're not going to take things like home charging into consideration. But if you're being very strategic on where you implement your fast chargers, there's definitely a need for both. And frankly, as the industry continues to mature as a whole, I'm talking about EV vehicle industry, the need for fast charging is just going to grow.
So I know you have kind of two paths to growth, right? You have your licensing with the Krogers and the Home Depots of the world, where you're coming in and you're doing a group of deals across their parking lots around the country, versus straight to the landlord, straight to the owner. Which one's a tougher deal?
It's an easy answer, right? Real estate's always going to be more complicated just by the very nature of it, right? If you're licensing existing stalls, there are things that you care about for sure, but there are other things that you don't have to consider in the process that you do with real estate. And even within real estate, I mean, ground leases are going to have different considerations than acquisitions, and they just naturally take longer. So at the end of the day, the licensing deals are easier. I say that very generally. There are exceptions to that rule for sure. But on the whole, that's the case.
What's your best case study out there? I would think there's an example of a guy with an electric car who probably just goes to the grocery store that has the electric chargers, because he's in there for 20, 30 minutes and he knows that he can come out and have, X% charged. Are there groceries, or are there other brands out there that are understanding the value of this faster than others, or are really leading the charge on saying, hey, like, we think this is an amenity that really drives value to our shoppers?
Yeah, I can't get into the names, but I can tell you that both on the retailer and the landlord side, you definitely have people who are understanding the value of EV charging way more. You're involved in ICSC, I am too. If you just noticed over the last year, maybe 2 years, the amount of panel discussions that have been on showroom floors across the country that have to do with EV charging specifically, that kind of gives you a little bit of an indication on how much this is now becoming top of mind for a lot of the larger players in our industry.
I'm going to pull up your profile page on BrandMarch and just talk through it a little bit. So your site criteria, tell me a little bit about what your range is and where your ideal size is. You have it here at 17,000 square feet, but give us a little more detail on your site criteria, who you want to be next to, preferred co-tenants, etc.
So ideally, the sweet spot is roughly around 0.35 to about zero point 0.4 acres, but I don't give them a max on that because there's all kind of creative ways to get deals done. And then with minimums too, we don't like to go any lower than 0.25. Now there are some areas of the country where the highest and best use of that land is not going to allow for a 0.25 parcel to be developed without going vertical. Right. So we have to get creative in some of these markets.
Lane, you were one of the first brands on BrandMarch. Tell me what you see the value is for EVgo to be on BrandMarch.
Yeah. So from a retailer's perspective, there are times where I need to not only find brokers, especially coming into this role fairly new, but also understand relationships with other brokers within markets. And BrandMarch, I was telling you earlier, it's one of those things, the more I dive into, the more I realized how much of a need there was for this in our industry. So I'm very happy that you put this together. I'm honored to be one of the first ones to be a part of it from the retailer's perspective. And I'm really excited to see where this goes.